Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're super excited to have Rina here from CISA, a strategic partner of the WiCyS organization, as she's talking about here's what's not new, the top class of vulnerability. So my name is Lynn Dome. I'm WiCyS Executive Director. We're Women in Cybersecurity. We often go by our acronym WiCyS, and we pronounce it WiCyS like we sisters, because that's exactly what we are. We're a global cyber sisterhood. So our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. We have over 9,400 members with representation in 93 countries. In addition to that, we have 70 professional affiliates, so many WiCyS organizations all around the world and all of their members. And in addition to that, we also have 270 student chapters and their membership as well. So each and every day, we have the reach of hundreds of thousands of individuals as we create accessibility and opportunities for women to not only get into cybersecurity, but advance in their careers because of it. And we do all that through all our many different WiCyS initiatives. We have skill development training programs, scholarships, grants, and awards, not only to our conference, but to other conferences as well. As a matter of fact, our WiCyS scholarship applications and our call for participation will be opening up in September. So keep that on your radar. We have all sorts of resources and speaking and media opportunities, speaker spotlight program, a job board where all our strategic partners, including CISA, recruit from year round, and all our members have the opportunity to upload their resumes. We have apprenticeships, internships, our mentor-mentee program. Our last cohort, we had 1,600 enrolled in that program. And the cohort for the next 9 months, the applications are opening up right now. So if you could check all that out on our website and be a part of the thriving, growing organization that WiCyS has to offer. So we owe all that thanks to our strategic partners, including our tier ones, Akamai, Amazon, Level Blue, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon Software Engineering Institute, Cisco, Ford, Google, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Optum, Sandia National Labs, SentinelOne, and of course, CISA, that's bringing us the webinar, and we're so excited about today. So before I pass the mic on over to Rina, I just want to remind everyone at the bottom of your screen, you have the opportunity to plug in your questions. So plug them in as the questions come to top of mind. We're going to keep them queued up and prioritized, and Rina will be answering them at the end of her presentation. In addition to that, in the middle of the webinar, there will be a couple of polls. So those polls will only be opened up for 1 minute. As soon as you see the poll released at the bottom of your screen, I would like to strongly encourage you to participate in that poll. And then we'll close it after a minute, render the results, and Rina will report it out. So if you haven't already subscribed to the WiCyS newsletter or become a part of the WiCyS organization as a member or a partner or a sponsor, I'd love for you to check out our website and just reach out to me if you have any further questions. So without further ado, Rina, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lynn. And hello, everyone. Wonderful to be here today. Huge thank you to WiCyS for hosting us and being a great strategic partner of ours and for the amazing work they do for women in cyber. As mentioned, I'm Rina Rakipi. And for those of you who don't know CISA, we are America's Cyber Defense Agency. We lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce cyber risk to our cyber and physical infrastructures. Now, there's many risks that are posed to our cyber and physical infrastructures, but one of the largest, we believe, is related to the quality of software that we use, so hence the topic of today. So this topic is really near and dear to my heart, and I think the title, although it's slightly cheeky, I know, really encompasses a leading issue in the industry. So often we think of what's new and exciting in the industry, in the cyber world, what's being created or developed, what's the shiny new thing. We also tend to think of what the bad guys are doing. But what we forget about are the things that are not new, that are recurring, and that keep impacting our daily lives as cyber professionals. So today's topic is on what's not new, which are the top classes of vulnerability. And just so we're all on the same sheet of music, a class of vulnerability refers to a category or a group of security weaknesses that share common characteristics or causes. Okay, with that, we'll transition into the problem. So I'll help frame the problem at a high level, and we'll provide some further information as we continue this conversation today. And really understanding the problem more in depth and its impact is our goal for you in the audience today. So the problem. Ultimately, technology products are not being built with security at the forefront. Security is kind of being viewed as an afterthought. It's being slapped on later, and it's usually being slapped on after a public mistake. So then, these products that are being built without security at the forefront are then being shipped to customers with those well-known defects. Now, how do we know that they are well-known defects, you may ask? Well, the top classes of vulnerability are the same year after year. These vulnerabilities, they have been eliminated by some entities, but really they have not been eliminated at scale, despite the availability of well-known mitigations. So why is this an issue? Well, malicious cyber actors are leveraging these same easily findable and easily exploitable vulnerabilities to cause damage at scale. Now, if I were you, I'd want some proof that that's the case. So let's learn more together about the damage that technologies that are not secure by design can cause. So to begin this journey, I'm going to start by playing a clip of Director Easterly. This is her delivering her opening statement to the Congressional Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party earlier this year. So I'm going to end my slides very quickly and play this video for you all. We'll be back in about 6 minutes.
Director Easterly, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Chairman Gallagher, Ranking Member Krishnamurthy, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify on CISA's efforts to protect the nation from the preeminent cyber threat from the People's Republic of China. As America's civilian cyber defense agency and the national coordinator for critical infrastructure resilience and security, we have long been focused on the cyber threat from China. But as you've heard, in recent years, we have seen a deeply concerning evolution in Chinese targeting of US critical infrastructure. In particular, we've seen Chinese cyber actors, including those known as Volt Typhoon, burrowing deep into our critical infrastructure to enable destructive attacks in the event of a major crisis or conflict. This is a world where a major crisis halfway across the planet could well endanger the lives of Americans here at home through the disruption of our pipelines, the severing of our telecommunications, the pollution of our water facilities, the crippling of our transportation modes, all to ensure that they can incite societal panic and chaos and to deter our ability to marshal military might and civilian will. Now, the threat is not theoretical. Leveraging information from our government and industry partners, CISA teams have found and eradicated Chinese intrusions in multiple critical infrastructure sectors, including aviation, water, energy, transportation. Now, based on this information, this is likely just the tip of the iceberg. So we're working aggressively with our partners in industry and across the US government to take action now, knowing that this threat is real and this threat is urgent. First, through authorities from the Congress, based on a recommendation from the Cyberspace Solarium Commission, we are using our Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, or JCDC, to catalyze robust operational collaboration with industry and government to enable us to uncover additional Chinese malicious activity and to develop ways to more rapidly detect it. We are also using our free services and resources in providing intelligence to critical infrastructure owners and operators across the country so that they can detect and prevent Chinese malicious activity. And we're using our now hundreds of subject matter experts and advisors across the nation to work directly with businesses to help them improve the security and resilience of the critical services that Americans rely on every hour of every day. The reality is, however, eradicating Chinese intrusions, bolstering resilience, and even some of the great disruptive work that Director talked about, it's all necessary, but it's not sufficient. The truth is, the Chinese cyber actors have taken advantage of very basic flaws in our technology. We've made it easy on them. Unfortunately, the technology underpinning our critical infrastructure is inherently insecure because of decades of software developers not being held liable for defective technology. That has led to incentives where features and speed to market have been prioritized against security, leaving our nation vulnerable to cyber invasion. That has to stop. Technology manufacturers must ensure that China and other cyber actors cannot exploit the weaknesses in our technology to saunter through the open doors of our critical infrastructure to destroy it. It has to change. We are at a critical juncture for our national security. Today's hearing should serve as an urgent call to action. Specifically, every victim of a cyber incident should report it to CISA or FBI every time, knowing that a threat to one is a threat to all, and cybersecurity is national security. Every critical infrastructure entity should establish a relationship with their local CISA team and take advantage of our free services, including vulnerability scanning, to ensure they can identify and prevent the vulnerabilities that the Chinese cyber actors are using. Every critical infrastructure entity should use these services and CISA cybersecurity performance goals, as well as the advisories that we've published with NSA and FBI and international partners to do the necessary investments in cyber hygiene to ensure that they can protect their networks, including throughout their supply chains. Every critical infrastructure entity needs to double down on resilience. Businesses need to prepare for and expect an attack, and test and prepare for and exercise their critical systems so that they can continue to operate through a disruption and recover rapidly to provide services to the American people. Finally, every technology manufacturer must build, test, and deploy technology that is secure by design. We have to drive towards a future where cyber actors cannot take advantage of technology defects to break into our critical infrastructure. This is a future underpinned by a software liability regime based on a measurable standard of care and safe haven for those software developers who do responsibly innovate by prioritizing security first. Now, none of this is possible unless every CEO, every business leader, every board member for a critical infrastructure company recognizes that cyber risk is business risk, and managing it is a matter of both good governance and fundamental national security. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to your questions.
All right, back here with the slides. So Director Easterly really does a wonderful job of getting to the core of this issue here. So while the People's Republic of China is a sophisticated adversary, they are not leveraging sophisticated tactics here. They're taking advantage of easily findable and easily exploitable vulnerabilities in technology products. So then enters our Secure by Design alert, published on the same day and mentioned during the director's full testimony. So together with the FBI, we released this alert to highlight what Director Easterly had mentioned. So again, while the PRC is a sophisticated actor, their tactics here were not. They exploited defects, fairly easy defects, in SOHO routers or small home, small office routers, to use them as launching pads to then compromise U.S. infrastructure entities. So these defects included unsafe configurations, lack of automatic update capabilities, other defects in the web management interfaces, like inappropriately being exposed to the internet, and also there were no notifications to alert of unsafe configurations or conditions. So here I've got some screenshots of the press release the Department of Justice released with the FBI in the same day. And you can see on the second image that our Secure by Design alert is also mentioned. And yes, this was quite the big day for safeguarding our nation against the PRC threat. So in this press release, it details how U.S. federal agencies disrupt the PRC botnet responsible for the exploitation of these SOHO routers. So again, these insecure routers were used as launching pads for threat actors to jump to critical infrastructure entities. Again, think of the electric grids, the water systems that we rely on every single day. As a result of defects in a product, our adversaries are able to harm what we rely on as Americans every day. So I hope you're getting the point with kind of all of my pauses here, and I hope you're as flustered with this information as I am. So in the poll section, I believe we have a poll here, and I wanted to do kind of a pulse check to see if everyone's as flustered as I am with the fact that there were very easy defects in routers that were exploited and leveraged by adversaries to target our critical infrastructure. So I'll have Rosalie send that out, and we'll wait a moment. I believe you have a minute to answer them. We'll wait a moment for the results. I know we have some of our Secure by Design advisors in the audience today, and I know that their answer will be flustered to the max, as mine says, but okay, my apologies. I believe the poll is just launching now. We've definitely got some fluster to the max. We've got some I'm all right. I'm hoping those people are on the beach somewhere and they're not frustrated for those reasons. And hopefully throughout the presentation, or if they come back from the beach to the normal world, they'll become as flustered as we are. All right, with that, I'm going to end the poll. It looks like about half the audience is flustered to the max with this information. About 37% are decently flustered, and about 10 or so are all right. End the poll there. And we're going to move into what this disconnect is. So, what in the world is going on here? I tried to draw this out, what's going on here, in a really simple picture. So on the left, you can see that, software and technology products are getting developed by manufacturers. Then they get shipped. And then there's cybersecurity problems. And then if you look on the right, there's a really accurate image of me over there with gray hair and holding my head like I have a headache. That's obviously not me right now, but that might be me in a few years as these cybersecurity problems persist year over year, the same exact way. So really, what is the cause of these issues? Why are they here? What's the disconnect? Again, and the point of this conversation is to highlight the impact of insecure technologies that are not being built with security in mind, that contain very well-known vulnerabilities, despite the availability of known mitigations. Despite this, we do have a goal here. We as cyber professionals do want to shift the narrative together. And we know that secure software development has been around and available for use for years, for some time. There's plenty of resource out there. And the burden of cybersecurity must be shifted away from us as consumers and users of technology products and back to the manufacturers. So that way they're building safe and secure products to use out of the box. So again, before it hits that truck right there in the middle, and obviously not everything is distributed on a truck, but before it gets shipped out, it should be built securely. And so that way we don't end up like that image on the right with our headaches and our gray hair when we're not there yet. Okay, next slide. So now that we've framed the issue, we're going to dive into the sources and really understand these recurring vulnerabilities that I've been yapping all about. So in 2007, MITRE publishes a paper titled Unforgivable Vulnerabilities. It details criteria for what warrants a class of defects to be unforgivable. And they kind of classify this as something that is both easily found and easily exploitable. So for example, they note how memory safety violations and other coding weaknesses are leading to cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, SQL injection vulnerabilities, and directory traversal vulnerabilities. And here these defects are suggesting that the developers really didn't consider security at all. So this is in the 2007 context. And then we fast forward 16 years later in 2023, MITRE publishes another paper on stubborn weaknesses. And that's not a mistake right there, that second bullet. It's the exact same bullet from 2007 because the same thing is going on. Memory safety violations, including weaknesses that lead to cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and directory traversal are continuing to happen. So again, what was once systematic disregard for secure development practices should now be considered negligent. So with our little note here at the bottom, despite widespread knowledge and documentation of these classes of vulnerability, again, since 27, it looks like in this case, the availability of effective mitigations from many trusted entities, manufacturers have continued to develop products with these, what we can now refer to as defects, which are putting customers at risk. All right, so right here, we're going to have a table, and this is a visual representation of the two papers that I mentioned in the prior slide. And you can see a bunch of the links from 07 to 23. So we've got some strong links, some less strong links, meaning they're somewhat related, but maybe a different variation. And then some arrows in yellow calling out those memory safety weaknesses. And so this list really expands on the stubborn weaknesses on beyond specific coding errors to encompass broader security weaknesses or issues in the software development and deployment practices. And as you look at all of those arrows, 16 years later, things are still the same. So right here, continuing on with some more proof, I have another list. This is MITRE's most dangerous software weaknesses list from 2011. So this list, slightly different from the stubborn weakness list. This is the dangerous weakness list. It emphasizes specific programming errors or flaws that can directly lead to security vulnerabilities or exploits. So with that, I'm going to send another poll. Okay, so you all should see this poll. I want to know what you guys think. So how many of the top 25 most dangerous software weaknesses from this 2011 list do you think will appear in the 2022 list that I'll show on the next slide? Got 3, 7, 10, and 25 as answers. And we'll give you all about a minute here. Got some answers all across the board. Give it another about 7 seconds. Okay, with that, I'll end the poll. And we'll see our result on the next slide. Okay, all of that green repeats. 12 years later, we've got 10 out of the 25 weaknesses that repeat, 40%. I'll pause again, 40%. So now moving forward, I'm going to offer you guys a bit more proof if that wasn't enough. So comparing the OWASP top 10 lists from 2003 to 2021, several issues have persisted. So this is indicating their long-term relevance in web application security. And these persistent issues underscore really the importance of addressing fundamental security concerns in web application development and maintenance. And this visual over here is a high-level overview of the changes over time. As you can see, specifically noted in top, injection, although it starts being named unvalidated input, and the convention changes over time, it's essentially the same issue, the same weakness occurring. So since 2003, we've known injection is an issue with web application security, yet year after year, OWASP is putting this on their top list as the biggest concern. Same issues with broken authentication and session management, along with cross-site scripting. I hope the flustering is increasing over time as well. Okay, so now with a bunch of that proof, we're going to dive into our Secure by Design alert series that I had mentioned earlier in this conversation. So what's the goal here of this series? Well, our Secure by Design alert series alerts are a series of short publications that are aimed at doing several things. First, they're highlighting the continued prevalence of well-known and easily findable and exploitable classes of vulnerability in technology products. So those examples you saw in those two large tables, along with the OWASP lists, we're highlighting those, saying, hey, we're finding these year after year after year, and they're being exploited in routers or network edge devices. So we're calling those out in the alerts. We're highlighting that. We're also providing existing resources to well-known and not new mitigations. So as mentioned before, mitigations to resolve these issues and weaknesses are not new. They're available for everyone to use by well-trusted entities, and we ensure to include those in our alerts. We really also aim to shift the burden of cybersecurity back to the technology manufacturer. So as I mentioned earlier, that the burden shouldn't be on us, but before it is shipped to us, the technology manufacturer must consider security, and as Director Easterly mentioned, consider it as a part of business and a business risk as well. And ultimately, we want to ensure that we are eliminating classes of vulnerability at scale. As we mentioned, some entities have eliminated vulnerabilities, these classes, but they're not many and they're not all of them. And our goal with this is to highlight them, provide the resources, bring some of the burden back to the manufacturer and away from us as cyber professionals, so we're not all gray-haired. And then we want to eliminate these. There's no reason for them to be this prevalent or really prevalent at all in our technology products. We're really leaving the door wide open for our adversaries to enter into our systems and also enter into our critical infrastructure entities and cause devastating impacts. And one really cool thing that I like about these alerts is that the audience. So they're written in less technical and more plain language. So they're able to be understood and communicated from any level of the organization. So that's including executives. So if you're a cyber professional that's more technical and you might not have that language to communicate these issues, I would encourage you to leverage the language in these alerts and share them with your senior executives. Or have them read them and use them as use cases and examples in making your case to conduct product testing and making plans to eliminate these at scale. So these publications are also based on what CISA observes in the threat landscape along with recent events. So we talked about Soho routers earlier. So right here is another example of a well-publicized threat campaign that exploited well-known defects. So these defected technology products that were targeted were PLCs, also known as programmable logic controllers, which essentially in this use case were the interfaces operators used to control the pressure of water pumps and systems in the water sector. So again, one of our adversaries, and in this case with this defected technology product, the threat actor was the Iranian government's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC as they're known, and they exploited a really easy one. The weakness here was default hard-coded credentials, and this is CWE 798, and this appears on both those 2011 and 2022 lists from MITRE, might I add. And I believe the default password here it was 1111, and that was publicized all over. It was hard-coded. So we're not making it too hard for our adversaries or having them really expend much resource. These are easy, well-known things. So this alert series is a part of our larger Secure by Design initiative that really started with the launch of our white paper in April of 23. And you can see at the bottom there all of our partners from throughout the federal government, along with across the globe, who contributed to its development and really believe in the underlying principles. Okay, with that, we have the underlying principles. Principle 1 is take ownership of customer security outcomes. Principle 2, embrace radical transparency and accountability. And principle 3, build organizational structure and leadership to achieve these goals. So in alignment with those principles laid out in the white paper, the alerts give guidance on what manufacturers should do. So you can see some examples here related to each principle on the screen. And again, also contained within the alerts on top of what we recommend manufacturers do are well-known mitigations and examples for what manufacturers should do from industry. But I'll go ahead and walk through a few of these of what we are recommending. So under principle 1, take ownership of customer security outcomes. We really want manufacturers to eliminate well-known vulnerabilities from products. We want them to provide the safe building blocks for their developers to ensure that a single error does not compromise the data or systems or access thereof of millions of users. And I think that's fairly relevant, as everyone knows, from the events of this past week or so. And to implement aggressive adversarial product testing to ensure the quality and security of their code throughout the development lifecycle. Again, super applicable given recent events that I don't really even need to mention. Number 2, embrace radical transparency and accountability. We really want transparency, especially when disclosing product vulnerabilities, and that we want manufacturers to disclose these via the CVE program. We want manufacturers to believe that they should identify and document the root causes, so those are the weaknesses, of vulnerabilities, and so the CWEs, and declare it a business goal to work towards eliminating the entire class. There's no reason that hard-coded credentials should exist and be an issue and be exploited by Iranian adversaries in the water sector. We also want an accurate CWE. So not only do we want a CVE submitted through the CVE program and a CWE, we want the CWE really to capture what is going on with the vulnerability. Like, what is that weakness that is then leading to the vulnerability that is then being potentially exploited by our threat actors. And then lastly, principle 3, build organizational structure and leadership to achieve these goals. So as Director Easterly mentioned in her testimony, give the security of your products, of their products, the same level of care that they give cost. Make the appropriate investments and develop the right incentive structures that promote security as a stated business goal. And then also not only eliminate them, but how do you eliminate them? You have to lead programs to root out entire classes rather than addressing them on a case-by-case basis. So often if you're playing whack-a-mole with these vulnerabilities, the moles are still going to pop up. And we really need manufacturers to develop programs so that they can be systematically removed. And that way it's just not, again, playing whack-a-mole or putting out fires, fire after fire. And that's not a lasting approach to security. And leading programs from the top down is the only way to effectively combat this. And then here I've got some of our more recent alerts that I encourage you all in the audience to check out. We've got one on eliminating OS command injection vulnerabilities. This was the result of the weakness CWE 78. For reference, CWE 78, does appear in MITRE's 2011 and 2022 lists. There's a common theme here. Additionally, it appears in OWASP's top 10, 03, 17, and 21 lists. And I believe the product affected here were network edge devices. The next one on eliminating directory traversal vulnerabilities, the associated weakness here is CWE 22. Again, applicable and were contained in the MITRE 2011 and 22 lists. And this impacted software in the health sector. And then another recent one of ours are eliminating SQL injection vulnerabilities. Here we've got the associated weakness CWE 89. This also appears in I'm a broken record here, I know, guys, sorry. MITRE 2011 and 22 lists, along with the OWASP top 10, 03, 17, and 21 lists. And this affected a file transfer application. And with all of this new insight that I've given you on what's not new, we have some calls to action. So as customers, we really need to demand secure and safe software and technology products. We need to ensure that we are procuring technologies that are secure out of the box and demanding that from our manufacturers. As cyber professionals, we should start to work more closely with our senior leaders to develop those plans and those programs to eliminate well-known classes of vulnerability. We know what the well-known classes are, and we just need to develop the plans to eliminate them. And we have the mitigations and they exist. Third, we encourage you to champion secure by design principles in your organization. So take our white paper, take these shorter, around 2 or 3 page secure by design alerts and leverage that language. We really want you to champion these principles in your organization, as there's no reason that these known defects should appear in these products, and there's no reason for big mistakes to happen. These should be eliminated, and we're given the tools to enable that to occur at scale. And lastly, and as I've kind of mentioned in the third point there, is just stay updated on our latest alerts. We're highlighting things that are very prevalent. We're giving the resources within those alerts and embedding them. And these are really tools to help you all as cyber professionals and make our jobs and lives a bit easier. So with that, that's the end of my talk today. I've got some links here. This is the link and the QR code to our Secure by Design webpage. That's where you can find our Secure by Design alerts. We've got our Secure by Design pledge up on there. And we have, I think, over 160 software manufacturers that are signed up and that are pledging to commit to more secure practices and building security into their products. So there's good signs and good momentum in the industry, but it's going to take all of us professionals championing these principles within our organizations to really make a change. We also have our email address over there. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your inputs on the alert series, on the initiative. We'd love for you to have your organization sign up for our Secure by Design pledge as well. And I'd love to hear from you guys as well. You guys are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. Happy to chat. And I think with that, I'm passing it back to WiCyS, and we're going to do a bit of a fireside Q&A.
Yes. Hey, Rena. Hi, I'm going to take a second. It's Rosalie Olmsted. I'm the executive assistant here at WiCyS, and we are excited to answer some of these questions coming in. So if you have any that have been formulating throughout Rena's presentation, please feel free to submit them now, but we'll get started. Ready, Rena?
Yes.
Awesome. So first question is, what is your advice for small businesses that are not considered critical infrastructure in regards to managing LOT devices? Do you have any SCADA server recommendations specifically to run in an virtual environment?
Sure. So, as I don't know much about your use case here in the small business in your specific environment, I would say we have plenty of resources on our website, CISA.gov/resources, and we do have resources for small businesses. Ultimately, kind of the point of the conversation today is to make an assessment of is to really understand like what's the issue in one of the largest issues in the industry, which is the fact that manufacturers are giving us technology products that we may be using within our small businesses, and those products are getting shipped to us with defects. And so to that point, really understanding the procurement process within your organization and ensuring that the products that you do buy are secure by design in relation to your specific environment and IoT. I would love to connect with you after. Feel free to reach out to our inbox or to me personally, and I can connect you with some CISA resources that might be able to answer those more technical questions.
Wonderful. And then with the situation that happened with CrowdStrike, should they start testing their patch test? Has CISA worked with CrowdStrike to make sure there are not vulnerabilities?
Right. So I can't answer the latter half of the question, but to the first part, so what happened in the CrowdStrike instance, right, is they release an update. This is all public information that they're releasing. They release an update on a Thursday, which is usually not normal practice. And this update obviously did not go through a secure software development lifecycle. We're talking about this in the presentation. There's processes to develop secure software, and that involves CI/CD, so the continuous integration and continuous development and testing of the software, including their updates. So this update was presumably sent out all at once, not in dispersed fashion or not in segments, but all at once, I believe, without being tested. And the update itself had a defect, some security bug. Personally, I'm not sure what that security bug is. And that caused the magnificent, that's the worst word for it, blue screen of death across, I believe, prevalence was 8.5 million systems. That's what Microsoft reported publicly in their latest blog. And that could have, one, and we mentioned this earlier in the presentation, one single code error shouldn't introduce the blue screen of death across the globe, impacting airlines and other hospitals. I know my sister works in the hospital and her systems were impacted. And I know some friends that had flights delayed, and this was all the result of not following secure software development lifecycle. Again, that we know what that is. We know how to do that. And that wasn't done there. And so some good things that they are doing. So again, in relation to our secure by design principles, is taking accountability. So they are releasing information out there. I know some of their executives have publicly, apologized and said other things. So that's a really great start. But ultimately, a single error in code should not result in that devastating of an impact.
Thank you, Rena. Do you publish a more technical version of this talk? I'm assuming that's what they're referring. It was a little general of a question.
Technical version of...
You know what? We'll ask them. If you want to elaborate that question, that would be perfect. And then what do we do about devices with embedded systems that are deemed secure during manufacturing, then require some update for CVE that was unknown at the time of deployment?
No, it's a really great question. And software, again, needs to be secure out of the box. But then as it is, it continues and there's patches that need to be made and what have you, those processes should be secure as well. Yeah, I think you're referring to maybe if you have a contract and it's outside of the period of performance. I know that's also another big issue in the industry is the fact that there's some end-of-life devices that are still in use. And so some of them, I believe that was the case in the SOHO routers. They were unable to receive automatic updates because they were end-of-life devices and they were outside of that support period, or they technically couldn't even receive those updates.
Wonderful. And then Rina, out of curiosity, has there been specific success stories of CISA secure by design alerts leading manufacturers to change their products to be more secure?
Yes, so I'll say this is a part of our larger Secure by Design initiative. These alerts, again, the point of them, they're not extremely technical. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to really just highlight what's, again, been known in the industry. There's vulnerabilities that repeat year over year. There's well-known mitigations. We're providing really basic kind of language and providing the existing resources to eliminate these vulnerabilities at scale. And 1 second here, I lost the question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I moved it. Do you need me to move it back over?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
No, you are okay. Let me.
Oh, yes. I apologize. I lost my train of thought there. So again, they're supposed to be less technical, and we're encouraging people to read these and just be aware that this is still an issue. And kind of, as I mentioned the poll earlier, how flustered are you? We want people to be flustered, and that has led to some change. So we have a lot of conversation, and spinning that conversation up is leading to some change. And then that has also led to the launch of our Secure by Design pledge. And again, we have got about 160 something manufacturers that are technology companies that are signed up for that. And there's specific criterion that they have to meet, and they will pledge to do things like implementing MFA by default, for example. So it is leading to some change as we're developing this pledge. We've developed this pledge. We have companies signed on to it, and they are showing measurable progress towards eliminating these classes of vulnerability.
Wonderful. And then how does the Secure by Design program align with EO 14028?
I'm assuming that's a national cybersecurity strategy, but I might have to look that up. I've got a lot of numbers and policies in my head.
If you'd like, we can come back to this one.
Okay.
Perfect. And then do you think there is a new approach? Do you think a new approach is required by CISA and other international equivalents if we find ourselves in the same place in 10 years' time with many of the same vulnerabilities listed?
I really hope in 10 years I don't have that gray hair and my hand's not on my head. I know it's in my face right now, but we're hoping with, again, the launch of our Secure by Design pledge. And again, these alerts are really just kind of almost talking points. They're trying to shed light to this, like, hey, this is still going on. Here are the resources. Use them. You should eliminate them. These are our guiding principles in our white paper. There might need to be new strategy, but we really believe in these principles that we've outlined in our white paper, and we've got some plans moving forward. So let's hope in 10 years that we do reduce and eliminate classes of these vulnerability at scale. And again, some organizations are doing this. This is not like unheard of. You can search, I would take one of those, for example, like SQL or cross-site scripting or traversal, and see which companies have eliminated them and publicly released. And there are definitely several.
Awesome. Thank you, Rina. And then we go to the next one. The Secure by Design reports were described as being in high-level language for executives to understand. I was wondering if another version of the Secure by Design reports were published with a highly technical information for security professionals. Thank you for phrasing your question. We appreciate it.
No, thank you for that rephrasing. So, yep. So these, again, were meant to be short and sweet, and we provide some links to more technical information and guidance for eliminating those classes of vulnerability. In relation to having more technical guidance, if you want to dive in, if you yourself are a more technical professional, I definitely recommend that you go onto our website and CISA.gov/ I believe it's /alerts or advisories. You can also subscribe to them and receive them via email. I know I'm subscribed to them all. And our cyber advisories are chock full with IOCs and other more technical information that you can leverage. And they do also, several of our cybersecurity advisories that you see and other fact sheets and guidances do contain secure by design language. So this product series specifically is just one part of this initiative, but this initiative is baked in throughout all of CISA. So again, that includes our far more technical cybersecurity joint advisories that we release.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, thank you for rephrasing that question so we could better answer it. This is a technical question, so I'm going to pass this on to you, Rina. How does ZTA and ZTN come into play?
Okay, so zero trust architecture and zero trust networking come into play. Well, I think, again, they're a part of a defense in depth strategy that that an organization can take. And it's a consideration for a manufacturer, again, a type of strategy that they can employ. Like zero trust architecture isn't like something that you just take out of the box and grab and you put in somewhere. It's kind of an idea and a framework that an organization should use. So how those two come into play is that they're a part of what an organization would leverage as a part of their security best practices.
Thank you. And then how do you see cyber professionals against the rise of AI-powered threats? Do you see that a cyber company needs to invest in AI to bolster their defenses?
Well, AI, again, it's a new technology product, and this conversation today was about technology products that are being built with defects. I'm not too involved in our AI space. We definitely do a lot of work in AI, and there's definitely risks with any technology product, especially new ones that are really quick to market, and their incentive is to be the first to market or have the functionality that may take priority over security being baked in. So I'd recommend that any professional, and if your organization wants to leverage AI is a great tool. I use AI often in my day-to-day work and in my personal life. It's a great tool to use to thwart against certain types of cyber attacks or just to improve just business functionality. But I would say take the same considerations into play, which are, hey, this is still a technology product, and don't go after the first new big shiny thing because it's new and shiny, but really ensure that they had security at the forefront in their development of that technology.
Awesome. Thank you for that advice, Rina. And then we have one of the viewers is in South Africa helping young girls with Cisco cybersecurity essential training courses. How can CISA help them with an entry-level experience into the world of cybersecurity?
Yes, so super great question, and thank you for the work that you're doing across the globe to ensure that young women are introduced to cybersecurity. You know, I didn't come from a traditional cyber background initially. I had studied international affairs, found cyber very interesting, took some courses, and then ended up doing an engineering degree in cybersecurity for my master's because I fell in love with the discipline. And so there's many ways to take anyone from any background and at any level and their insight is extremely important and valued and bring them into the cyber world. So for how CISA can help is we have, again, I'm going to mention our resources, many resources, and I recommend that you all subscribe to them, follow all of our channels, subscribe to our current activity alerts, our advisories, our other joint guidances, and stay up to date with what we're doing. I know it's extremely helpful even for myself as I'm not involved in everything that we release, but I read our material and really learn from our entire organization about what's going on. So even AI and what's impacting AI systems, we have a great team of AI SMEs. I know Lisa Einstein's spoken before with WiCyS, and she's done such a great job. I read what we have going on and really learn about different issues that are facing us as cyber professionals, that are facing this nation, that are impacting different entities like critical infrastructure. So I'd say that's a really great start, and just motivating them that you don't necessarily need to have the ComSci background per se to get involved in cyber, to make an impact in cyber.
Wonderful. And then, Rina, thank you so much for that. Is there anything else you'd like to close out with before we end the talk? I believe the rest of were just comments and feedback for you.
Awesome. Okay. I don't think I have anything else. I believe someone asked for my contact information. I'm not sure how I can put that in there. Am I able to do an announcement, Rosalie? If not,
Yep, sure. If you see on the right-hand side, there is the rectangle with the exclamation point. Feel free. I shared that LinkedIn is the best way to be connecting with Rina. So please feel free to search for her by her name. If you'd like to put it in the announcement, please feel free to do that. Awesome. And I just want to take a minute. This was an incredible webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time, Rina, out to educate us and to spend some time with our viewership. I hope everyone has an amazing day. And again, thank you for being here.
awesome. Thank you so much, Rosalie.
Thanks, Rina. Bye-bye.